doubt the question I get the most is, do I still have ME? Did I cure ME? So obviously if you've watched my videos for a long time, or if you've seen some of my old videos, or if you found me through my pacing video, you'll know that a few years back I was completely bedridden with ME. To the extent that like I couldn't hold my head up to watch television a lot of the time. I couldn't listen to a podcast. I was so sick, so consistently for so long. And now if you've glimpsed any of my slightly more recent videos, you'll see that I'm kind of like, I have been living independently for a long time. I support myself. I'm pursuing my creative dreams. I inexplicably twirl a lot. Clearly there's a huge marked difference. I look different, my life's different, etc, etc. So I wanted to talk about it, and I haven't really explained what's going on ever, partially because I don't want to give advice. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not an expert. I'm just going to fill you in on what I know, but this is not a how-to, this is not a guru situation, this is not a health coach situation. This is like me and you, we're friends, we're meeting up for a matcha, we're exchanging war stories, okay? That's the concept. So please do not come for me if I say something wrong. This is just my journey. So have I recovered from ME CFS? Short answer is no. Obviously I've improved a huge amount. When I was first talking about health on YouTube, when I was first bedridden, what I imagined recovery as was something very linear, very scientific, very predictable, and also something where the end goal was to be as if I had never been sick in my whole life. Like I wanted the end goal to be like, it was as if ME had never happened. I'd be completely able-bodied, completely normal, and my body would be able to take the risks and that anyone else can. I would be able to do anything without repercussions to the extent that like an able-bodied human can. That did not happen at all. I still have to be extremely careful. I'm still thinking about it every day. My everyday routine, diet is a consistent journey and struggle and dance to kind of work with my body and not upset the apple cart. So the answer is a definitive no. I can absolutely not say that I no longer have ME. I absolutely have ME, and when I meet a new person who doesn't know how sick I once was, they experience me as someone who's like not able-bodied. They experience me as someone who has like a particular condition that she needs to like accommodate and live in a weird way because of. However, from my perspective, because of how sick I once was and how much I can now do and the life I once had and the life I now live, I feel like the person I was at, you know, when I was making my pacing video, when I was like bedridden, when I was housebound for years, like this, she would not be able, she would be blown up. She wouldn't be able to like, she wouldn't be able to get her head around it. Also, like the thing about my ME in my case is that like everyone on one side of my family, it's like very much in the family. Lots and lots of different people have it. So I know that in my case it's genetic. So completely overcoming the tendency towards it might not be like entirely possible. Maybe it is, who's to say? But what I try to be is like the healthiest. Right now I think of it more like in terms of like how if you have diabetes but you manage it well and you take your insulin and you do all the right things, it doesn't necessarily hold you back as much as it would untreated. Like that's kind of more the framework I have now for like my goals for myself health-wise. And I certainly am having, especially this year, especially in 2024, I'm like living the highest quality of life I've ever lived through, I would say, a mix of like recovering and then just like kind of management, or just trying to be as healthy and strong and take as good care of myself as I can. But I'm standing here, I'm talking to you, I've emigrated. We out here is what I'm saying, kind of. With that being said, in the past year, I've made another leap that I wasn't expecting. So now I kind of, it's funny because for many years I kind of just decided that like a framework where I just accepted I was disabled and like just try to take care of myself was the best way to approach this, and like whatever, and find out a different way of living and just accept it was the best. And now I'm in that space, but I'm also like, due to like environmental factors that I will get into in a minute, I am now in a space where, in a weird twist, more recovery suddenly feels possible, if not probable. So I am kind of opening up that whole project again in a much more like focused way. Okay, Fergal, what the fuck does that mean? So I want to share how I got to this point. Nota bene, how I got to this point in my opinion, because there's a certain amount of like me saying I reckon that happened because of this, and I reckon I recovered this way because I did this, but I actually, this disease has been so under-researched. So the context, the quick backstory is that I got ME, or started to be like symptomatic or whatever, when I was 14, and I had stopped going to school for many, many months, and I was in like secondary school, and I never went back like completely full-time ever again. So like for the rest of my education, I would either be like on a reduced schedule, so like a couple of hours each day, or I would be in like 2 days a week and the rest of them off. So yeah, so I was like sick enough as a teenager that I didn't like really go to school. I went to college and like at 18 and got significantly sicker, ended up like completely collapsing and dropping out of college and being bedridden and like living with my parents for like 2 years. But that was like unrelenting. When I was a teenager, I kind of used to have like good days and bad days. There'd be days where I could go into school and stuff, and then more days where I couldn't, but the good days existed. At like 18, 19, the good days just stopped. And then I was just bedridden the whole time, couldn't like lift my head, couldn't read a book. And that's kind of when, I guess as well, like adulthood, and also it kind of me realizing how serious this could be and that I could make myself so much worse if I didn't take care of myself. That's when I really started my recovery journey. A lot of trial and error, a lot of different things, but I will say the first thing that I tried and that I discovered and really started looking into that really started to change things for me was pacing. Not as simple as it sounds, not a question of simply not doing too much or whatever. I made a whole video about it at the time, and I won't link for too much in that one because I've already made an extensive video about it, which I think mostly still holds up. That worked. That is what got me out of the place. The other thing that worked at the time, or that I did at the time, was really go on a very, very like healthy diet. Like I ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of protein, just made sure I got all of my nutrient sources. I got allergy tests and realized I was sensitive to a couple of different things, and then kind of cut those out. I meditated as well because meditation helps to kind of calm your body and allows it to heal. So those were things I did, but again, who's to say what specifically worked, but I know the pacing, once I started pacing and thinking about that, focusing on that, it had a huge effect. I will say it's kind of a fine line. It's kind of tricky because it can cause anxiety. You can be very obsessive about it, and it then makes you anxious, and then the anxiety exhausts you. So what I never quite mastered that, but I just did my best for long enough that eventually I got out of that space. So what I'll say to you now that I did not know at the time was that I tried to make everything perfect. I wanted the recovery to be like a straight line in a graph and to be done numerically and mathematically. Like I thought everything, I just really thought if I got all the numbers right, like the right amount of protein, the right amount of footsteps in a day, the right amount of heartbeats, the right amount of whatever the fuck, hours sleep, that I could just control it on an upward trajectory. And I could never do those things, and it really bothered me. But actually, it's just, that's impossible. Like getting it so exactly right. So you just gotta do the best you can and know that doing it imperfectly works. Doing it imperfectly does work. When I say doing it imperfectly, I don't mean not doing it. I mean, like if you really are trying your best to pace as well as you possibly can, and then life is still a bit messy, it'll probably work out more or less fine. The second thing that helped me the most was getting out of my moldy ass bedroom. My parents live in a really, really beautiful house in Dublin, but it is moldy, and kind of a natural doctory person kind of was talking to me about my situation and was like, you kind of seem moldy. Not her actual words. If you think about it, like I was sleeping in my bedroom more and more and more the sicker I got, and spending all my time there. We did like mold tests. You can get these little ones that like you just leave in a room for a few days, and like I think what happens is like this mold in the air, so it like grows on the test. They all had like a little bit of mold, but my bedroom was the one that came back with like red bands across it. So my parents like very kindly got the room demolded. My aunt let me move into an apartment, and I lived. So here's the thing, this is why stories are so idiosyncratic to the person, because moving into your aunt's apartment is not something that many people are going to be able to do. This isn't actionable advice exactly, but it is just how it happened for me. And I got a huge boost from that, not only because the apartment was in the city, so I was able to be a bit more independent, like get my own groceries and things, as times moved on, but also, yeah, I didn't have the mold holding me back. And to this day, even though my room was completely cleared and everything, I still have to take antihistamines whenever I go back to stay with my parents so that I don't get like an allergic reaction to the house, which is bonkers. It's really terrible, but it's also kind of funny. Just like in a kind of oldest sister, like Charlie XCX's Apple kind of way. Like, who among us isn't allergic to her childhood bedroom? But like in a very real way, I actually am. One supplement, I've taken a lot of supplements in my life. I take a lot of supplements now. I take iron, I take magnesium, I take B12, I take a multivitamin, I take propolis. But the one thing that I like swear by for me is this supplement called Veg EPA, which is like a fish oil. And it was recommended to me by a doctor to take in huge quantities. And it is the thing that cured my brain fog. That is a really big statement to make. But the one symptom that I can say for sure is just gone, touch wood, is brain fog. I don't get brain fog anymore. No matter how sick I am, COVID, pneumonia, like sometimes I'm like so tired that I'm silly, but that's a different thing. And that was from Veg EPA. I took huge doses of it for like about 6 months. And then after that went back to like a normal, like 1 capsule a day. Throwing Veg EPA at my brain really helped me. So the next one on my list is really strange. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you are kind of looking into ME, if you're in the community, if you're on the Reddit threads, you may have heard this before. But so I hate all of the things I just mentioned, and also things like taking care of eating really healthily and stuff. But I did all those things, and then I got to a certain point, and then I kind of plateaued for a while. And at that point, after doing all those things, I was kind of well enough. I wasn't that well. I think I thought I was better than I was, but I was living in this apartment in town. I was in a relationship. I was kind of beginning to be like, okay, maybe this is just as well as I'm going to be right now. And instead of putting all of, years of my life have gone by, instead of putting all of my energy into like putting life aside until I'm fully well, maybe I need to just start living in the now. And I started doing that, and I just got on with my life. Like, even though I was so sick, and even though I was in my apartment like 80% of the time, I would say, like, I still was like, I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna work out how I can, like, I don't know, write books or something, write films while sick, and we'll just do that. And I'm still kind of in that mindset a little bit. However, the plot twist was that after the major kind of 2 years of COVID lockdowns, I'd always noticed that I was sickest in winter, so I decided I was going to go away in January, which is usually where I kind of like reboot my disabledness each year, where kind of like I fall down a pit and then I spend the rest of the year trying to climb out, and then it happens again. So I decided I was going to go somewhere sunny in January, and I went to Spain on like a little solo trip to see if I could kind of like give myself 2 weeks or something of vitamin D to just sort of reset myself. And I ended up staying for 2 months because I was the healthiest I had ever been in my life, like since I was a child, because I was very young when I got sick, so I've never had the experience of being an adult and being able to like walk around and everything. And so that was a completely life-changing experience. And I think it was a mix of obviously like all the rest I'd gotten during the pandemic, which is still ongoing in a lot of the world, but like during those lockdown years, all the stuff I'd been doing, but then suddenly being in a space, it's kind of almost, in some ways, if you look at it, one way to look at it is that it's almost like an extension of the mold thing. Ireland is a very damp, very cold country in the middle of the sea. So I've heard a lot of other people from all over the world who moved to like drier, southerner, brighter parts of their continent and talk about seeing progress. So I was there, and then I went back to Ireland, and my partner was still in university, so I kind of went back to Ireland, immediately got really sick again, and then we started sort of planning to move to Spain. Now another factor, and this is, not only are these factors inconvenient for you, they're inconvenient for me too. Another thing that I've noticed in the last year, unfortunately, me and my partner are now slightly long distance because she had to go be back in Ireland for a while. We moved to Barcelona together, but then she had to go back just for complicated life reasons. But Another thing I've noticed is that living alone is really good for my health, which isn't ideal because I really love my partner. So that's something I'm just gonna have to, that's a hit I guess I'm gonna have to take. These are just interesting things I'm noticing, because these are probably things that if you can't move somewhere southern, or if you can't live alone, you can like, speaking like to you but also to myself, like sometimes it's interesting to notice these things, because then you can sit down and be like, I wonder why that is. Like, why am I so much healthier when I'm living alone? Living alone is another factor that I feel like allowed me to sort of sit in my own energy, not try to match a healthier person's energy, and that just naturally allows you to kind of explore what your body wants to do and what it feels like, and learn how to live with your own. I have an aunt who refers to it as intuitive flow, and I think that's a really good term. So since January of this year, which is the point at which I started living alone in Barcelona, I have been doing the best ever. I got COVID in June, and that was a huge hit for me, and also it gave me some sort of lasting lung issues, but nevertheless here I am. So where I'm at now in my journey is kind of realizing I have an opportunity again, like this, like it's kind of almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like there was a plateau in Dublin and I couldn't get weller than that. So at a certain point I was like, cool, I'm just gonna hang out here for a while. You know, this is as well as I've gotten, like let's see how much we can do with this. And I was very settled in that kind of like, it's okay, I can live like this, I can work out how to do that. And now that I'm here, opportunities seem to be, it's like an opportunity for more recovery, I think, because of how much better and stronger I feel just by nature of being here. One of those avenues, which is controversial, I was having some like weird heart stuff at the beginning, like this time last year. And I ended up seeing a cardiologist here who's put me on this like, basically like an exercise program. It's not graded exercise therapy. It's to do with your heart and training it, you know, to differentiate between the different heart rates better. So like the first month I had to move for like 30 minutes every second day with my heart rate below 99 beats per minute, which is like really hard. And for me, because I was so unfit and because my heart was so hyper responsive, it was like I was on one of the exercise bikes and I was literally moving in like slow motion. Like it was literally like this is how I was moving the pedal. It was really hard and really boring. And then I've been moving it up really slowly from there. And now I'm at a position, having been someone for my whole life, adult life, where like if I ran for the bus or like if I did any kind of exercise, it would destroy me. And he could see on like a heart scan that was true, which I thought was so crazy. It's the only time in my life when I've been to a doctor who could like see the fatigue. And this is why I think timing is crucial. If I had tried to do this, what he's asking me to do when I was bedridden in Dublin, full of mold, like having never paced, having whatever, it would have fucked me up so bad. Even just the sitting on the bike going in slow motion would have fucked me up so bad. But I'm at a place now where I'm like almost like, I feel like I have more fluky good days, but there's just enough good days here where I'm like, let's see what I can do to really set this in stone, to really use this like little sprig of energy to try to do something with this. So I'm trying to once again get into my regimes. I'm going to the gym, doing what the heart guy tells me to do because he's made a huge improvement to my life. I am once again on my like super clean, disgusting word, but super clean eating, or like super vegetable-y diets. I switched out coffee for matcha. My camera ran out of battery, so I'm just going to finish this video off on my phone. The TLDR of the situation is essentially what I'm describing with the cardiologist and everything that I'm doing now is still kind of a version of pacing. So pacing is still really the thing. What way that my perspective has really changed since like the beginning of my journey to now is that I think at the beginning I viewed this whole thing as like a science project. Like I wanted it to be as scientific, numerical as possible. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact 12 years ago, Emmy, no one knew anything about it, and I was really afraid people wouldn't believe me, and I was really afraid people would blame me. So I didn't really want to make it, to personalize it. I didn't want to personalize my health. I believed in the mind-body connection, but more in a way where I was like, I'll meditate because meditation is
positive health effects, but that was more like I was like reducing meditation to a purely physical act. Like, I guess I just wanted everything to be really like, well, there's the mitochondria and I'm doing this thing so it does this for the mitochondria, and I'm doing this thing so it does this for the nervous system. And I didn't. And I think now I've had to I kind of feel like what the journey has taught me is like trusting myself has been like the really hard thing to do. Even things like realizing, like, I found it so hard to act on the knowledge that I was so much healthier in Spain, even though I knew I was, because it sounded so implausible and weird. And I really felt like no one's ever thought it was unbelievable, by the way. Like, every single person who I've admitted this to has been like, it makes total sense, like intuitively, that you'd be healthier in Spain. Like, who wouldn't be? But I think I was really afraid that someone would be like, oh, very convenient for you that you have to live in a sunny country, you like little princess. But I think that's just something I've had to be like, yeah, I think I'm really moving into the holistic thing and just being like, it has to be about believing yourself, it has to be about trusting yourself, accepting yourself, all this. So I feel like that's been like one of the major changes over the years, and something that I'm having to like reopen now. I wish, I know that this isn't a satisfying video maybe, and I know I didn't give very clear answers. This is why I haven't like explained this or given this update, because it's so like tip of the iceberg, and it's kind of like nothing's changed and everything's changed. My entire life's different, but I'm still just pacing and I'm still just working on it, and it's peaks and valleys, and I'm doing my best, and that's really the answer to your question. But I hope this was at least interesting. If you have any similar experiences or thoughts or whatever, leave them in the comments. And again, everyone's body's different, so don't be cross with me, please. Thanks, love you, bye.